All right, everyone, welcome to our Empower Hour podcast interview. And I'm so excited because I have not only my mentor and my amiga, but an advocate and leader in our community who is untouchable and breaking barriers everywhere she goes. Please welcome Nilza Serrano.
Mil gracias, my dear friend. I love you. I love everything you do, and I'm happy to be here today.
Oh gosh, this is so good. I love it. Birds of a feather, they say. So
Yeah, we are.
Okay, Nilza, 3 adjectives to describe you. Let's kick it off with an icebreaker.
Chingona.
Oh my gosh.
Fearless.
Ay, ay, ay.
And focused.
Okay. I'm going to just jump in and we're going to go around and about. I know right now you, among many different projects you're working on, your pet project and pride and joy, which was born out of COVID, is the Latino Equity Initiative. Let's jump right in. Tell me about it. Why and how did you get it started?
Okay. In 2020, the mayor of Los Angeles convened commissioners in segments, meaning he had meetings with the Black constituency, Asian constituency, and Latino constituency, and I'm not sure what happened in each one of those meetings, but I do know what happened in the Latino commissioners meeting, and there's about 86 of us, and I want to thank him for that. He was able to appoint a lot of Latinos and Latinas into positions of power and policy making. However, during COVID, Latinos were the last to be pushed to get their vaccines. Latinos were the last to be told you could stay home. Latinos were the last to be serviced when it came to food banks and those kind of things. And during that time, there was a big crime against our street vendors, which in many instances were killed execution style. They were beaten. And the reason for that is because they carry cash.
Right.
And it's a cash micro business.
Mm-hmm.
So I, in the meeting, raised my hand and asked some of these very important questions. And also during that time, there was defund the police. Well, when you're defunding the police, you're defunding it in the poorest communities because the poor communities are going to continue to get their services.
That's right.
So there was more opportunity for more crime to happen in those communities. So I asked the questions. I was not satisfied with the answers I was getting from the chief of police and some of the people in leadership. So some of us continued the conversation for about 8 months. And at that time, somebody else was leading the charge. And we were meeting and having a meeting about a meeting and a meeting. And I am a person of action. And I said, look, if we are not going to take the next steps to move on, I have to step away and I have to put my services and my efforts into something better. Because at this point, we're just meeting for the sake of meeting. Mm-hmm. And then I was told, do you think you could do a better job?
Ooh, challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted. So then I said, yes, I can. So I took it over in July. By September, we had a website. We had our 501c3. We had our pledges created, and we did a soft launch in during September 15 during Latino Heritage Month to show that yes, we could do it. So Latinas get it done. Yes, Latinas get it done, and we thought that it was important for anyone that has the desire to lead our city has to commit to ensuring that Latinos take priority or at least are on top of mind because we are 50+% of the city's population. We are the wealth, the health, and we're the ones that keep the city going. Mm-hmm. And so all the candidates decided that it was important for them to sign the pledge, and they did, all of them. There was some that hesitated. I had to push them a little bit through a press conference, and the media did some calls and asked them why they didn't want to sign it. Eventually, they signed it. We also did our first ever, in the history of the 200 plus years of the city of LA, the first Latino only issues debate with the
Oh,
candidates.
That's right. I
After-
remember that.
Yes, after 200 years. Are you kidding me?
Mm.
So obviously, it is great that we did it, but it's also shameful that it took this long to get it done.
Right.
So we are just pushing. As you, as a member, and your husband, a proud board member, and an ally of us, we've already met with the city attorney to discuss how she is going to ensure that the commitment she made in the pledge continues. And we met with the controller's office, as you know, and his commitment to transparency and giving some actual reporting on how that's going to happen. So I'm waiting now for the mayor
How exciting.
to decide to meet with us.
Did she sign the pledge?
She signed the pledge.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, after the press conference, she signed the pledge.
Of course.
And now I'm just waiting for her to agree to meet with us. We have been waiting. I think I've sent out maybe 10, 12 emails, and I had a messenger deliver the request in person. And I also sent it snail mail just to make sure that all my I's were dotted and my T's were crossed. So now I have not gotten a commitment or a response to my request.
Well, if there's anyone in Mayor Bass's office who's listening to this, Nilza Serrano, the founder and president of the Latino Equity Institute, has been trying to get in touch with our mayor. So can you please give us a call? My number, 323-559-5548. What's your number?
323-807-2601.
Oh, we're bound to hear from the mayor now. Okay, so the pledge, what does it say exactly?
The pledge has 5 points of Latino equity. Point number 1 is ensuring that mayor, city attorney, and controller hire Latinos at decision-making posts, not at low-ranking
clerical
posts, decision-making posts. And we want equity is not equity unless it's equitable.
What does that mean?
It means that everything we do has to be aggregated to the population. So when you've got a population that is over 50% of the city, yet we only represent less than 10% of the employee base, then we have some issues. When you've got an administration that has to service 50+% of the Latino population, but you only have a less than 5% Latino employees in your administration, you know you have a problem. I appreciate the commissions. I appreciate the effort in that, but that doesn't give Latinos and Latinas the experience they need to take their career to the second and third level. Right. So they need to be in the administration. They need to have their resumes, their CVs updated. So saying, yes, I was a deputy mayor, I was this, I was that, I was able to handle big projects. And right now we're not getting that from our
because
leadership.
They just aren't in positions to even have that put on their resume.
Right. They haven't given us any of those positions. So I think it's time to say no más. We want equitable services. That's number 1. Number 2 is contracting. So we are asking for an independent task force to oversee the contracting practices across all city departments. And the reason for that is in 2020, I asked for the budget. No, in 2021, I asked for the budget, the 2020 budget for public works. And it's about $856 million a year. 40% is payroll, which I understand. That's payroll, then benefits, pensions. I'm comfortable with that. So that leaves about $500 million, a little bit above $500 million for contracting services and procurement. In 2020, Latinos got a total of, now this is $500 million. We are 50+% of the population. And out of $500 million, we got $1.3 million in contracting. Come on. 1.3 million, which equates to 0.0002%.
And this, explain what you mean by contracting for people who don't understand politics or what contracting means. Explain why that's significant. What does that mean?
Well, it means that we are paying in, we're not getting anything back. So we over-index in retail, entertainment.
The Latino
community,
demographic.
yes.
Okay.
We over-indexed in everything. We pay even more parking tickets than anybody else. So when we are
paid my fair share.
exactly. So when we are paying into the system that is not distributing back to our communities, that means we're not employing more people that could be employed by us. We're not growing our businesses as fast as we should be. And we're not doing all the things that will make the city healthier by giving contracts to Latinos.
Contracts to Latinos. How back
contracting?
Up for,
Contracting
what does that mean?
as much as, I mean, as little as
like
we
the
need
city
copies.
Okay.
We need copies. We need 2 million printed of this thing,
okay.
of this brochure. Why isn't it going to a Latino-owned company?
A Latino printer.
Right? Or we have to paint a building. Why aren't we giving it to a Latino-owned business?
And so business owners, no matter what background or ethnicity they are, know that if they want to work with the city, they bid on a contract.
Right.
So is there a process?
There is a process. You have to apply to become a vendor. You have to submit all of your work, prevailing wage, insurance, and all the other things that go along with it, which is fine. Most Latino businesses have that. Then it goes into an RFP process. And that RFP
what does
process,
RFP mean? And again, I'm talking to people
request for proposals.
Okay.
So then they'll send out an RFP. The RFP really identifies exactly what the scope of the work will be, and then you have to respond. I could do it for XYZ. And then you go into this bidding process. If you are a minority business, you get extra points because you belong to the minority underserved class. The challenge is that somewhere along the line, the message is not getting to Latino businesses, or Latinos are not feeling that they are part of the system, or they're overshadowed, or they're not taken into consideration. So we have an issue that needs to be addressed.
So the problem also is not only from the top, it's from within.
Right.
So from within the community, the Latino business owners are not applying or not seeking these.
Well, we don't know because there's no transparency.
Oh.
Yeah, there's no transparency to the process. I've literally looked at every page, gone through every opportunity, every dashboard, everything that I could to ask, to review, to see if there's somewhere I could see how many Latinos have applied for this, how many. There's nothing. There is no real clear system on how you can check what that looks like, because we don't know. And I've asked for a further demographic breakdown on who is actually getting contracting. We know who's not,
right,
0.0002%, but we don't know who is. So I've asked, and I've not gotten it. I've got no transparency. That's why a meeting with the controller, as we did last week, is going to be paramount to our success, because we can't advocate if we don't have the reporting. We can't push and be more sensitive to what we need to do and educate our population if we don't know. So I think the controller's commitment to transparency for everyone, I think, will benefit us.
Oh, amazing. So for this $1 million that went to Latino contracting, what Latino company got that $1 million?
Well, that's another thing that is sad. It was $1.3 million, but it didn't go to Gina Zapanta as a $1.3 million contract. It was broken down to 28 companies. So that means that if you divide...
Whoa.
Yes, exactly. If you divide $1.3 million by 28, I think it comes out to like $48,000. Well, that doesn't even give you enough profit to hire somebody to do the reporting of what you need to give the city after a contract is being allocated, or,
So then what advice would you have for a Latino-owned business that can potentially be a vendor for the city? What steps would you recommend that they do to submit a bid?
Well, first of all, I think that they should stay informed.
First, call you.
Call me, right? Call me. And again, I have the work that I am doing is all volunteer, because my community means a lot to me. I don't get paid. I don't do anything for anything else. It is important for me because of my friends, their kids who one day are going to want to be construction management companies or developers, and they need to know what that process looks like. But also because I am sick and tired of being sick and tired
Mm.
of not getting access.
Mm-hmm.
So it is time for us to stand together, vote our interest, which is something we don't do often.
Of course, I know.
Don't stay home. Yes, it is in the city of LA, most candidates are the same, but there are some that are going to realize that equity means equitable.
Mm-hmm.
And if they believe that, then I think we're going to get a good candidate that's going to fight for us.
Sure.
And I'm not saying to take away services from anybody else, because for God's sake, we don't want that.
No.
But we want to also be included at the table. And right now, we're not even at the table.
We're not even at the table,
Yeah.
but we built the table and we serve that table.
Exactly.
You better believe it.
Yes.
But don't you dare give us a seat.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. That's point number 2. Point number 3 was when we have dollars available to us or to the city council and to the mayor for allocation of services, what I've noticed is that some of the Latino districts don't get it. For instance, if there is money for trees, why don't we start with the poorest, more neediest first, and then work our way to the others?
Yes.
When there's money for parks, why aren't we investing in parks in the poorest communities where the communities are dense, right? I mean, there's just so many challenges across, from internet infrastructure to, let's take internet infrastructure, for instance. I pay Spectrum, $70, whatever that looks like, but I'm in a more moderate, more affluent area.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody who is poor in like Boyle Heights still pays the $70, but their service is not as adequate. I had an assistant that lived not anymore, she lives in Pasadena, lived in the Boyle Heights area, and I would send her an email. I said, you need to respond to me a little bit faster. She goes, Nilza, I don't get your emails until about an hour later because the internet's so slow. And then I said, I don't believe you. I said, run one of those, test my speed. And hers was, the upload was at like 120 and the download was at like 3. And I'm going, what? So, but here we're talking about a population that is dense. So you've got maybe 200 families in one block paying $70 each for internet. And then you've got in the, let's just say Westwood or Brentwood, you've got 4 houses in a block paying $70 each. And they're getting better service. How is that even make sense? And of course, the providers of internet want us as taxpayers to pick up the tab because it's infrastructure. Why? That's cost of doing business.
Yeah.
They need to invest in their own infrastructure. Don't try to get us to tax us so that we could pay you. Right. So I don't know how that works. I know that is a challenge, and I know that we need to stand up and say, yeah, no mas. So anyway, number 3 is trying to figure out how we get equitable dollars to our communities. And then the 4th was creating a kitchen cabinet of sorts when there is a program that's going to be rolled out to call Latinos to the table and say, we want this to be effective and we want everyone to get their fair share. Can you tell us what the best method of communication to the Latino community is? Then it becomes a little bit more it becomes an easier way to get the messages when we're talking to our own people, by our own people.
So you're talking about people from various communities,
yes,
not just business and industry. You're talking about people from community. What do you need? Like, how can we best communicate to you and asking them their feedback?
Right. So if let's just say, for instance, there is $10 million for small grants for people who need it for food. If you are not telling us that that's there, we can't tell our community that that money is there and that they should apply for it. Or how do we get the message out? How do we become a partner to you, Madam Mayor, so that we can get those dollars out? The homeless issue, 40% of the increase in homeless is from Latinos, meaning that Now we are the lion's share of the homeless population. Yet I have not heard anything about specific plans dedicated to Latino.
Right. Okay. So switching gears a little bit, if somebody is listening, well, when people are listening to this and they maybe are not as well versed or educated to the statistics that you know, and I know you live, breathe, and eat this world. Somebody listening to this who is sympathetic to it and wants to become an ally to the cause, is not Latino, they see the injustice and the disparity, but they don't know where to start because, like you just said, there's homeless, there's the internet infrastructure, there's the political, there's this, that, the other. What would you advise them? How best can they contribute or get involved to help make things more equitable?
Right. So I think, yes, there are a lot of challenges, and you could spread your money thin, and that's not going to go anywhere. I think the best way to start is always at the top, and that means policy. Often we see policy that is being written that does not include the Latino base. And let me tell you, for example, maybe about 6 months ago, there was a proposal that passed the council to do a study of crime against Black women, which I applaud. I think it's needed. But why didn't they add Latina women?
Why didn't they?
I don't know. Or why didn't they just do a study against crime against all women? Right, especially in the city of LA.
Sure.
So they allocated, I believe it's $300,000 to do this study, but it doesn't include the majority of the population in the city of LA.
And who did this study?
City council.
Why did they do the study?
I have no idea. And why didn't they include us?
Okay.
I have no idea.
All right. That's interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. So it is those types of things that I think that Latino equity can do, because we would be a hub for all of it and somebody could review it. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to build a board that can help us raise the money to hire staff that can push the advocacy, be the hub, be the policy writers, continue to push the effort. And we have over 40 plus partners in our arsenal. However, they all have their own constituency. We want to advocate for all those constituencies collectively, because if we're talking about immigration or the poor population, we're usually hitting immigration as well. So we are hitting segments in the population that unfortunately are sometimes unseen.
And I think it's so important what you're doing, because you've been in politics just all your life.
Yeah.
And from what I've seen as well, there is not a voice. And I know there's a ton of organizations out there and a lot of groups and a lot of committees and a lot of chambers and a lot of this, that, the other, but I've not seen anyone moving the needle as far as policy is concerned. I hear a lot of statistics. I hear a lot of, this is wrong. We're not treated equally. Okay. That's getting old.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
You're crying. What are you going to do about it? And
exactly.
I'm not seeing, just being in the community and being involved, I'm not seeing anyone doing anything and pushing as hard as I've seen you push. And I know you are extremely diplomatic until the chingona comes out. No, but that is part of being chingona. You knowing how to be diplomatic, knowing when to push, knowing when not to. And so I appreciate very much. And I hope people see you and mirror or get inspired to also do that within their communities, because we're tired of hearing about the whining and the statistics. Those are not going to change, especially the more whining we do.
Exactly.
But if we maybe even adopt a tenth of how the action that you're committed to, whatever that looks like for people, that's when change starts happening. We cannot settle for the status quo. We cannot settle for this is how it's been. It's not acceptable anymore. And voting, obviously, we know statistically, our community, the Latino community, doesn't vote. It ebbs and flows. There's not a lot of enthusiasm for it.
I think I have a theory for that as well.
What is it?
I think we have domestic violence syndrome when it comes to voting.
Why?
Because we're neglected 3.5 years out of every election cycle.
Right.
and then we're bombarded.
Oh yeah,
6
everyone's a
months.
Latino champion when it's
right.
election time.
Yes, exactly.
They've never even been to Boyle Heights, please.
Exactly. So I think it becomes, we see through the BS, right?
Oh, totally.
Yeah,
and we know, we're like, oh no, everyone just dismisses them.
Yes, exactly.
They just need my vote.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that becomes an issue for us because we become, this battered voter all three and a half years, and then once election time comes around, then all of a sudden we're so catered to, or we want to fix your neighborhood, or si se puede, and then when they get elected, no se pudo, right? That's
I laugh, but it's infuriating.
Yeah, it's very.
I laugh because it's just silly at this point.
It's
like, how dumb do you think we are? Which they do think we are very dumb.
Yeah, exactly.
Very dumb.
So it is. It's unfortunate that we are at this position, but I'm not gonna give up. I'm gonna continue to fight. I do need allies. I do need.
How can allies help you? Give me something tangible and practical. People listening to, and tell us how they can contact you as well, and how can people support you?
Right, like for instance with Mike. Mike is an ally. He has a big voice. He has a big platform. And he said, I'm with you. No questions asked. What can I do? What can we do? How do we fix this? He understands the challenges. He understands the issues. And a lot of this, I know that it sounds like every other organization, but it takes money. It takes money.
Money talks.
Yeah.
There's no shame in that.
For us to hire an executive director / CEO.
Yeah, there's no shame in that.
Right, for
money
our organization that I think has done a lot. We need to hire a policy person to oversee any policy to make sure that we are including our voice in it. I am also the president of Avance Democratic Club, which is the largest Latino Democratic club in actually, I think the country now, but definitely the county, because we're only chartered to the county. And during our endorsement process, one of the questions I ask is, are you committing, whether it's a federal, state, local election, are you committing to ensure that if there is ever any policy that comes through your desk and you see that Latinos are not actually named, that you put our name in it? So sometimes the conversation has been very black and white lately, or for a while now. And there is a rainbow in between. And that rainbow needs to include Latinos, Indigenous people, Asians. And unless we say expand that table, we're never going to get our share. And I don't want the Black community or the white community not to get their fair share. But, we are 40% of this population for the state of California. 49.5 in the county, and over 50% of the population. And I truly believe in the heart of my heart that even with those numbers, we're still undercounted because many of our people still live in the shadows, even though they are paying taxes. And they're still your customers, they're still they take care of your children, they are your doctors, they are everything. We're everywhere.
The grocery store, you go to the produce section or any dry food section. Who do you think put that there?
Right.
Who do you think put that there?
Exactly. And I think people take that for granted. For instance, during our last storm and there was hail, they were out there harvesting our food, the most valuable commodity to humankind. And they're working where this hail is hitting them. And you're just like, oh my God, this is insane.
And do you know they don't even get proper work and security attire? And actually one of my next guests is going to be Flor, who runs Celebration Nation. And she's an amazing and progressive advocate for the farm workers. And you're on that very point, they're just the overlooked in the shadows community. And I'm going to kind of segue into my next question. That community, our community, does not speak up. Historically, we have not. I mean, yes, back in the 60s, 70s, there was the Chicano movement, which helped us make some moves. And there is still an undercurrent of that. But I don't feel or see that there is anything equivalent to the noise the Chicano movement made when it was around. But on a bigger conversation, culturally, why isn't our community louder? Why isn't the community demanding. Why isn't the community more like you?
Uh,
But you know what, or me for that
yeah,
matter, because you and I, we will just,
yeah. I
nobody
think a
tells
lot
us
of it.
anything.
I think a lot of it is that when the Chicano movement was very loud and proud and fought, and the brown berets, is because our Latinos were dying in Vietnam at a higher rate than any other demographic, even though we didn't have the numbers. They put us in the front lines to fight. And our men, they're brave. They were out there and they were getting killed, and they were coming back and not being serviced. And I think that's where that was born. And now the younger Latino does not recognize how hard everybody else worked for them to have the voice they have now. And because we've grown in sheer numbers, they think everything's okay.
Interesting.
LAUSD has education retainment programs for specific demographics, but doesn't have some for Latinos, even though we are 75% of the student base. Wow. I mean, I could just go on and on the inequities in our community.
We're just scratching the surface.
Exactly. And I think the only way to start is, yes, we need organizations and nonprofits that are doing the amazing work on the ground, like Chirla and Naleo, educating our elected officials, and the unions who are educating their workforce. But nobody is pushing our electeds to say, hey, it is your responsibility to ensure that when you are writing policy, that you include the Latino voice.
The accountability factor. Exactly. There's no check on that right now.
Right now. And I think
there is now.
Yeah, what we've started, with you and you as a partner, and Mike as a board member, he and other board members understand that we want the small business to get business, but we also want the large Latino business to get business, because we employ more people. It is estimated that there are approximately 6 million jobs left on the table in the United States because Latino businesses are not getting funding from banks. 6.3 million is what I remember the last I read. So there is a significant problem. Now let's do some awesomeness. Latinos are growing at 170 people an hour in the United States. 170. Jesus. That means almost 1.5 million a year, compared to our counterparts who are not nearly in those numbers. Actually, I think the highest one is the Asian community, and they're growing at 38 an hour.
Really?
So there's a big discrepancy, right?
Sure.
So we are not going to stop having babies. We're not going to stop growing, but it is time for us to start demanding that we need equal share.
Especially from within, because it's great that the policymakers do it, but they're not even going to hear about it.
Right.
Unless we have louder voices and actually act on it, not just cry about it.
Exactly. We need more Latino attorneys, more Latino doctors, more Latino architects. We need more Latino everything. And the only way to do that is to advocate.
That's right. And education. Okay. So I'm going to end with personal question.
Sure.
So where is Nilza from, and what inspired you to even go this route and become such a fierce advocate?
Thank you.
Where were you born and raised? Tell me about your family. And who inspired you?
Okay. Well, I am from Central America. I was born in Guatemala. I came to this country at 7. I grew up in housing projects. So I went to bed many a night hungry. I remember my mom doing the best that she could, even though she was an absent mom. I had an alcoholic dad. I mean, everything that should be a statistic. I check. I really should be a statistic. And for some reason, the universe, the warriors in my blood said no. And I decided that I was not going to take it. I was afforded a voice. I was afforded an opportunity to have a voice. I was afforded the opportunity to meet with governors and the president of the United States and leaders of big corporations, and because of that, I have this opportunity. I know you. That's a blessing. And because of that, I'm not going to give up.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm going to fight and fight and fight until I can't fight no more. And even then, I'm going to fight some more.
Did you have a inspiration or a mentor that you were guided by or said you wanted to be like? Or how did you even learn to do this?
I think because I didn't.
Oh.
Most people have it, and I try to provide it whenever possible, as much as I can. But I didn't. I had to find it on my own. Growing up in housing projects, there wasn't a lot of people that came to us.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot. I remember standing in line waiting for our yearly Christmas gifts from the local council member or the local nonprofit that wanted to come and give us an opportunity. I remember getting with my grandmother standing in line for the free cheese.
Mm-hmm.
And those are all threads to the fiber that makes me today. And I don't want to ever be a victim, but I definitely know what it's like to go to bed hungry and not have. And that's why I fight, because I don't want anybody else to ever not have just one pair of shoes. And which I remember having just one pair of shoes. And that's why I think I'm a shoe addict now.
You deserve it.
So that's me. So in a nutshell.
Well, I love you. How can people contact you and find?
They can email me at nilza@nilzaserrano.com, or they
How do you
just
spell that?
Nilza, Nilza, at Nilza, Nilza, Serrano, Serrano.com, or they can text me at 323-807-2601.
Okay.
That's my cell number.
See that? She's even giving you her cell number. That's how serious she is about having you join her as an ally and an advocate and a supporter. And seriously, if you do want more information and to learn or support, use the information. What did I just tell you? We're tired of just hearing the statistics. This is where we act. We execute. Pick up the phone. Start typing. I bet you have better internet infrastructure than a lot of people. Nilza, I love you.
I love you
Thank
too,
you
babe.
for
Thank
being
you
on my
for having me.
podcast. You
Thank
inspire
you.
me.
Thank you for having me.